plastic bullets are being considered by police chiefs as a tactic to bring this rioting under control. The Deputy Assistant Commissioner has said Scotland Yard, though, is not going to throw 180 years of policing with the community away. But the use of any tactic will be considered carefully. That doesn't mean we are scared of using any particular tactic. Well, let's speak now to Professor Gus John, who's founder of the Moss Side Defence Committee. He did speak to us yesterday after the events over the weekend in Tottenham, and he joins us again from our central London studio. Thank you so much for joining us here on BBC News. Now, you have worked very closely with disadvantaged youth. Do you think, as we've just heard, plastic bullets may be the way to deal with this?
No, I do not. And if I have a worry about all of this, is the fact that the government might reach for over-militarized solutions, which I think would be wholly inappropriate. We have to bring this disorder under control, yes, but it has to be understood that those young people come from communities, they're part of communities, they come from homes. They may well be taking stuff that they've taken from shops and other premises into homes. It is important that we find ways of working with communities and indeed with those young people themselves, those who might be inclined to come back onto the streets, because they are the losers in all of this. Whatever mayhem they cause, whatever damage they may cause, they are the losers. I would suspect quite a number of them would be imprisoned as a result of all of this, further adding to the social exclusion that defines them in any event, which is why we see what's going on the streets.
But there will be an argument, won't there, that the time to hug a hoodie, to use that well-known phrase, is over, and now it's time to get tough. Ordinary law-abiding citizens across London and in other major cities in the UK are frightened.
Well, the government can get as tough as it likes, and even if it were to imprison every single young person who's been on the streets since last Saturday, it has to remember that the same conditions that caused them would be causing many others, and there are others who would very readily replace them. You see, we're dealing with a betrayed generation of young people. This is a British creation. It's a product made in Britain. And what we have to do is to understand how we deal with this immediate crisis, but at the same time address the issues that give rise to this kind of young person who is fearless. They have no concern about the police, about CCTV cameras, about helicopters in the air. They've got no concern about any of that. And as a matter of fact, some of them simply do not believe that they've got very long to live. They tell you about a life expectancy of 25. So therefore, if they've been, some of them, involved in broad daylight, murdering their peers, why should they be concerned about razing shops to the ground? We've got to get this thing in some perspective. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if the degree of national interest and concern that there now is about these fires and looted shops and the rest of it was present since 1988, when we've had these young people killing one another with the same degree of abandon, then perhaps we won't be in the situation today.
But you say that this is a product of Britain. Why have we gone so wrong?
Well, it's an important discussion to have. I believe that what we've had is at least 4 decades of systemic marginalization of those young people, to the extent that the profile that they have is not a particularly favorable one. They've lost hope. They are in despair of their own future. They have no concern about the values that we are supposed to commonly share. And as a consequence of that, all the pontificating that might go on about what they've done and whether they're feral or whatever, it doesn't register with them. And that is the point that I'm making.
So
we've got to understand that we need to invest in those young people, invest in their healing and rehabilitation, even if they've got to be sentenced to whatever for what they've done on the streets, those who are arrested. Because if we simply take a law and order approach to this and see justice criminality, we'd be back here again in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years and 30 years.
But in the immediate term, who will these people listen to? Community leaders, presumably they have a part to play, an important part to play here.
Those young people need to listen to one another. They need to listen to the 95% of young people of their age who are not like themselves. You see, the thing is this, they have largely been excluded from any kind of a conversation to do with the country, its shape, its future, its policies, and they're making themselves seen and heard in the way that they choose, which is being visible on the streets through the mayhem that they're causing. It is a cry of the unheard, and consequently we need to take that into account, work with them in organic groups within their communities. It doesn't help to simply wipe away a whole youth service in the country and then expect those young people to have significant individuals with the kind of training and orientation that can identify with them from their definition of their needs and help them to find a place within society. Right now, they do not believe that they've got any kind of investment, not even in the communities in which they live, never mind in the wider society.
Professor Gus John, thank you very much for joining us at BBC News.